series of Self Reliance Voices, learn from legends. Tonight's the night you've all definitely been waiting for. I know it's true. It's How Resilient Is Your Kitchen with our friend Alan Booker. And he's going to bring up some points that might make some of us uncomfortable who think we are homesteading badasses. That's what's going to happen. Now, we're streaming this out on YouTube and Facebook and some other places today, so if you're seeing this for the first time tonight, this is Self Reliance Voices, which is a free webinar series that you can sign up for at selfreliancefestival.com/webinar. Just go to the page, scroll down, and it asks for your name, your email, and it asks you how you heard about it. You hit submit. If you don't tell me how you heard about it, that's fine. It's just that sometimes it's fun for me to see how you heard about it. And then you will get an automated email that will give you a link to the Zoom. Now, there are reasons you would want the Zoom, that access to the real Zoom that Kiri will tell you later, but I'm going to tell you one reason, and that's that we're going to see half the webinar streamed live, and then we flip over to the secret part of the webinar that happens on Zoom only, and we will give you one more warning about that before it happens, but you're going to want to see the second half of the video, I'm pretty sure. So might as well just get signed up now and head over to Zoom and join us, and we'll see you on the Zoom. If you have questions, guys, on the Zoom, there is a Q&A button down at the bottom if you float your mouse over it. Or if you have a comment you think would be germane to the discussion tonight, throw it there as well. That's how I can see it's there. And we're going to be all about the resilient kitchen. Now, I decided this week or last week was when I needed to start doing the hard stuff at the homestead. And here's what I mean by the hard stuff. A lot of us have learned in the homesteading world that even if you don't grow it, if you buy the whole you get a much better for your budget and a much higher quality meat product. So we started buying whole cows years ago here. I haven't purchased much beef at the grocery store for over a decade. But what always happens is we eat the steaks and we eat the ground, and at some point you end up with a heart and a tongue. And I call those the hard cuts. Like, you don't just grow up typical American lifestyle learning how to cook a beef's tongue, but you can learn how to do it, and it is delicious. So last week I reached out to my friend Dawn Gorham, who does the volunteers at Self Reliance Festival, and she's managing the vendors at Self Reliance Festival this time. And I said, okay, Friday we're doing a live stream how to cook a cow's tongue, because we've been sort of playing with this idea of let's do a series of nose to tail cooking videos. And the thing people end up throwing away the most often are going to be your organ meats and things like the tongue or the heart, which I guess is technically an organ, but it tastes more like a muscle. It's the only organ I like the flavor of, actually. Full disclosure. So we did a cow's tongue video, and this would have never happened had we not met at Self Reliance Festival, which is, why it happened. So that's the kind of community you can find. You could find your cow tongue cooking partner at events like Self Reliance Festival. And right now, tickets are dirt cheap. Self Reliance Festival tickets right now are $50, and the price goes up on Thursday at midnight. So if you go to selfreliancefestival.com and you just go to the ticket page, these tickets right here, 2-day pass gets you in for Saturday and Sunday, camping included, and it's only $50. Those go up to $75 on August 1st and then $95 on September 1st. So definitely hop over there and get them. And if you're like, I literally cannot make it to Camden, Nicole, but I really want to see all these awesome speakers like Jack Spirko, CJ Kilmer from the Dangerous History podcast, Zach from An American Homestead, Angry Prepper, like all these people who are going to do great presentations. Nicole Sauce, Kiri Torgler, going to be doing some really awesome presentations. I'm pretty sure we just landed our spinning demonstrator today, so that's pretty cool. But you just can't. There's also digital passes. They are also $50. selfreliancefestival.com/tickets. Speaking of Kiri is my co-host today, and she's somebody that maybe y'all haven't seen unless you were at the festival, but she is well known in self-reliance circles, partially for that fireball thingy.
The fireproofer.
The fire poofer. So they put up this campsite at Self Reliance Festival that was more like a mansion campsite. Like they had a kitchen, they had like a comfortable place to sit, they had their tent. It was really awesome. It's funny because I had said probably 3 Self Reliance festivals ago, and you guys could just like pool your resources and form households in the campground area and make like whole compounds of places to stay and like share resources and that sort of thing. And Kiri's like, I know how to get this done and I know how to be comfortable. And then they trotted out this fire poofer that shot up these big fireballs. No, they didn't do it all night long to keep people up, but that was really fun. Now she and Glenn are very creative people, and you'll know that. And she makes some fantastic sauces at Thunderhill Farm, which you can buy in person at the Self Reliance Festival, and they sell pretty well when you're there, don't they?
Yeah, I have been very successful at Self Reliance Festival, and I have met more incredible people that just want to see you succeed.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So that's Kiri. She's going to be along with us on our journey. And I thought today would be perfect because it's the Self Reliance kitchen topic. And she and I both really like to cook. So,
Absolutely.
I don't know if we're going to bust out any recipes or what, but I'm going to hand it to you, Kiri, to say what you want to say.
You bet. Well, hi, everybody, all of our SRF and LFTN friends. It's really great to see you tonight. Going to talk about the elephant in the room. I hope all your gardens and your homesteads are growing really nicely so far this year. It's kind of my favorite time of the year. And before you know it, we're going to be in final harvest. We're going to blink, and, I hope it's all going well for everybody. And I think that's part of the reason why this session is just so timely and will really fit into all of those next steps. We're going to be really focusing on moving everything into that kitchen. How do we make sure that our kitchens are really prepared and we're set up for success to have that resilient kitchen? This week on the farm, we've had some really fun stuff happen. We had a couple of surprise natural hatched turkeys that we didn't know we had some girls sitting on. So we got babies here in almost August. And knock wood, I think I have gone through my very first and hopefully last aphid infestation. Nobody likes to come home from vacation and find aphids on all their plants. But it's kind of important to us here because everything that we grow on the farm is what we use to make the sauces that we like to share with you guys at SRF and on our website also. Speaking of which, on the topic of sauces, our giveaway for today's webinar is actually a $50 gift certificate for Thunderhill Farm. Come and see us at the October event, and this will be an in-person. You'll be able to come to the table and pick out what sauces that you would like for that. I'll be there to help you along the way, and you get to try and taste everything that you want. But you do have to pick it up in person at SRF October 5th and 6th. We're going to do the drawing for this, though, at the end of the webinar. So like Nicole mentioned earlier, if you are watching this through Facebook or the stream on YouTube, you're going to want to register for this webinar so you can make it all the way to the end for the drawing. And you're going to want to see the second part of Alan's presentation because I walked away with so much new knowledge and so many new evaluation systems based on this. And I can't say enough great things about Alan. This was honestly the session that I missed the most at the last SRF. I really wanted to make it, and it just didn't work out with my responsibilities. So I'm so happy to be part of this viewing. Alan Booker is a fantastic speaker. He really covers what we need for this resilient kitchen and how do we get there? What steps do we need to take? Just so you know, in Alan's presentation, he does reference a quiz that people that were at the live event were able to access. It's not available for tonight's viewing, but you'll be able to follow along and kind of answer the questions that he's bringing up. But we should all next time be there in person. Get your tickets for Self Reliance Festival. Make sure you're there. Or if it doesn't work out, get that virtual pass. You'll be able to still have access to pieces, and you'll really get the full depth of all the presenters that we're going to have an option. So I really hope you guys enjoy the first part of this session. I think it's going to be fantastic. And I guess without further ado, let's start digging into how we can all build a more resilient kitchen.
We have a place outside that's set aside for that. Or do you have the ability to go off grid and cool or even heat your space? Okay, so look at those options, and I see answers coming in. So we're going to give you another couple seconds on this one. You know, one of the things you're kind of, as we're finishing up these answers, one of the things I keep on coming back to is this idea. When you are doing a kitchen setup like this, it's got equipment and it's equipped in a way that's completely different from an ordinary kitchen. I mean, how many ordinary kitchens have that? What is this, by the way? It's a bone saw, right? I pulled this out of my kitchen. It's like, yep, most standard suburban kitchens do not come equipped with this. Okay, so you need to think about how differently we're considering the kitchen so it can be an integral part of the overall food system, right? All right, I got 21 answers, so I think we're going to go forward. Last 5 seconds. Anybody else want to give their answer before we go forward? Going once, going twice. All right. So we got a bunch of people at 2. That's our one. We got, you know, the vast majority of people are at 2. That's interesting. All right. We got one person at a 5. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Let's go on now to number 4, water sources. Water sources. We'll break this down into 3 categories. Where your water comes from and whether it's properly filtered. Number 2, what kind of water bottle you use to carry the water with you. And number 3,
Sometimes Nicole makes mistakes. Oh, like that one. I just realized I started it halfway through, so I'm going to start over, guys. Sorry about that. That was my bad.
when Nicole asked me to speak, we were talking about what people would be interested in, and she knew that I had, almost under protest, decided to do a book on kitchen systems. And it's one of those deals where, you know, I kept on looking around going, somebody must have done this, right? There's how many books are there on kitchen stuff? And somebody must have done this. And I kept on looking around and nope, couldn't find it. So, and people kept on asking. When we would do workshops, we would do things on food systems, resilient food systems, and so forth. And we would talk about and we would show what we were doing to integrate the kitchen into the overall food system. People would be like, where is this? I can find this. And so we got pulled into starting to work on a book called The Resilient Kitchen, and looking at how you would actually integrate your kitchen into your overall food system and how you would make that more resilient. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. If you would like to play along in a minute, we're going to do a quiz. And so if you want to look at it, it's flexiquiz.com/live. Let me make sure I got that spelled right. Yep. And once you go there, you'll put in this number, and you can sign in with a nickname. And in a minute, we're going to kind of have some fun and go through. We'll do a couple slides, and then we're going to do a little bit of a quiz. And that's going to help us walk through all of it. So the question is, how in the world did an engineer, starting off electrical engineering, being pulled in systems engineering, actually wind up doing this as a side thing? And I think it kind of goes back to those days in when I was very young, and I go up with my parents to visit my grandparents every year in West Virginia, and I would end up working in the garden with my grandmother. She had a 1-acre garden and an amazing root cellar, wall of canned goods and so forth. And it was a little older when I finally realized what that meant, because she raised 12 children during the Great Depression. Now think about that one for a minute. And so, you know, every time I see that little meme, you seen the meme with the grandmother-looking lady in the garden, and it says, Grandma survived the Great Depression because her supply chains were local and she knew how to do stuff, right? Every time I see that, I'm reminded of my grandmom. And because I would go up there and I would watch her cook fresh food from scratch coming out of the garden every day we were there. And so that keeps on coming back to me as I think about this question of, what's it going to take as our supply chains become more stressed, and getting good food becomes more and more impossible? What's it going to take for us to deliver high value food reliably? And I grew up from being with my grandmom in her garden, went to engineering school, got pulled out of that, went into systems engineering and large-scale systems engineering. From that, pretty quickly started realizing how much of a disaster we were making of things as engineers. And so I started trying to figure out how we were going to address all of it. And that pulled me into permaculture and large-scale regenerative design. I do a lot of consulting on that. And then the food stuff comes right in, because if you cannot feed people high value food, you cannot keep them healthy, and you can't have good community. So that's where we are. So I got to thinking about this, and it's like, why is having a resilient kitchen such an important thing? And from my perspective, working in the engineering side in large infrastructure, my first thoughts are kind of this, 5 things. One is food costs are going up, and from everything I can tell you, from working with large-scale parts of our food system, what do you think they're going to keep on doing? They're going to keep on going up. It's built into the pie now, the way that everything is being done. I think we all know that. Number 2 is that access to good food is going down for both market and regulatory reasons. It's almost impossible now to buy good food. Anybody realize that? What you're buying is more expensive, and it's also just crap. So there's number 2. Number 3, grid disruptions are going to probably over the next decade become more common. And what I mean by this is, I'm not talking about the zombie apocalypse, everything collapses. I'm talking about even if we manage to keep everything mostly going, what I expect to see from the engineering side is that our grid infrastructure, and by that I mean power, I mean supply chains, I mean natural gas distribution, I mean all of that will become less reliable and more prone to disruption. So don't just think, how am I going to keep myself fed if the grid goes down for, because everything collapses. It's like, what are you going to do when all of a sudden the challenge is that the grid goes up and down? It's like, I don't know when the grid's going to be up, I don't know when it's going to be down, I don't know when the natural gas is going to be working, when it's not, all of that, okay? Number 4 is that we are in what I call the death spiral of industrial agriculture. I end up going in and doing guest lectures at a lot of like graduate level agronomy and agroecology courses, and I do a lecture called The Death Spiral of Industrial Agriculture. And I explain systematically why it is that the way we're doing industrial agriculture is actually in a death spiral right now. And I don't have time to do that. That's an hour-and-a-half lecture. But the news I have for you is I've done that in graduate level courses in agronomy in many places around the country. And so far, nobody's been able to refute what I've said. So we are in the point, I'll just give you one factoid. For every ton of food produced by the industrial food system we have right now, according to the way it's grown, we lose 5 to 8 tons of topsoil. Okay? Now figure that one out. And that's one small reason we're in this death spiral of industrial agriculture. Okay? And number 5, making your own food from scratch is the only way to be healthy in today's industrial, agricultural, pharmaceutical, industrial complex. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of look at and have fun looking at these different things and let you do a little quiz to along with me as we talk through the different aspects of kitchen resilience. So if you want to play along, like I said, here it is, flexiquiz.com/live, and then here's the number, put in your nickname, and here's the one, there's 2 little things about this quiz. Number 1 is once we start, make certain that you keep your phone live because it does funny things if you let your phone go to sleep. So keep your phone live. And number 2 is when we get into the quiz, you'll select one of the options, then you have to go down to the bottom of the screen and hit submit. Okay, so make certain once you've selected your option, you go to submit. Otherwise, you won't have submitted. So those are the two little things. So I'm going to start this in just a moment, but while we're getting everybody online that wants to be online, I'm going to give you my bullet list of 12 things I thought about as what are the hallmarks of a resilient kitchen. Like, what does it look like? And so here's my list. 1, produces nutrient-dense real food with nutritional integrity. Number 2, it supports the health of the people it's feeding. Number 3, it creates value. Right? Number 4 is it saves you money. Number 5, it produces no waste, because waste is actually leaking money and leaking resources. Okay. Number 6, it functions off-grid when needed. Number 7, it connects to local food production and uses local food production, and then its outputs feed back into local food production. Number 8, it uses what is available locally that is in season plus what you have in storage. Number 9, it uses local distributed storage instead of massive centralized warehouses. The current system is, let's put all the food where? In a warehouse and do just-in-time distribution. A resilient kitchen, where do you think, what do? We distribute it, okay, and we use many points of distributed storage instead of a few points of concentrated storage, okay? It integrates into the nutrient cycle. That is, that all of the nutrients that we are going to be using in our system go right back into the food production system locally, okay? It functions as part of a regenerative sustainable system. I don't have too much time to get into that today. And then number 12, it supports community. It's a community building thing. To have a resilient kitchen is a highly community building thing. I think we saw that from the previous presentation that was going on. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to start, and we're going to go through this quiz and together, and I'm going to go ahead and start it. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a couple of slides here that you'll be able to see. And for those of you who aren't on the quiz, I'm going to try to kind of like tell you what they're seeing on the slides right now. The first is one of the flow charts from the book, and it's called the Industrial Food System Flow. And what we're showing is basically extraction of natural resources in manufacturing a food-like substance that they try to feed to you, and then it goes into the landfill. That's what we're doing. That's part of the reason the whole thing is collapsing. The next slide that we're going to look at, and so I'm just showing these things really quickly to give you an idea of like what's in the book, is this. What does a resilient kitchen actually look like? Well, it shows how we're using food production, local food production, and coming into the kitchen and then producing very high quality meals, and then all the outputs from that, food scraps, everything else, are going right back in, and we're completing the nutrient cycle. So this is actually a closed cycle system instead of an extractive system. The next thing is the food shed zones. And again, I won't have time to go through all this. This is normally a whole discussion we get into. But what it's showing is this idea of what is your food shed? Where is your food coming from and how far? And it has some goals in it as to how much are you producing locally on your own land, how much is being produced in the community, how much is from farms that are within a 2-hour drive of you, and how much is coming from more than a 2-hour drive. And guess what our target is for more than a 2-hour drive? Less than 10%. And part of that reason is that there are some things we can bring in that are high value that we can do without. Like some of the spices are really hard to grow here. We can bring those in. They're a high value add. We can bring in a small amount of that. And if we don't have it, we're not in trouble. Does that make sense? So that's it. And then the last little slide I'm going to show you before we get into the quiz is this one. Another little bit to think about on is, do you understand and thought your way through what it looks like to take something out of your food production system? In this case, the one I'm showing you on the quiz is corn. And what do you do with that? What are all the different options you can do with corn? How do you harvest it? What do you do with the silage? What do you do with all of the side products and so forth? Okay. And you can nixtamalize it. What happens when you do that? you can make hominy, and all the different things you can do with corn. And so what we're doing is, for all of your staples, we're doing flow charts like this that show you how to make absolutely 100% usage of every bit of what you're producing, how to, all the different options, and then how to return all those nutrients into your food production system. So that's another little element that's going into this whole idea. So any questions on that before I jump in and start on the quiz? All right.
Say there'd be a test, Alan.
It's a quiz, not a test. All right. Right. So here's what we're going to look at. We're going to talk about the 5 levels of kitchen resilience. And if you're playing along on the slides, then you see that I've kind of defined 5 levels for you. Actually, there's 6 because there is a level 0, which is like we got nothing, right? And so when we go through the quiz, you're going to be able to rate yourself on each one of these 12 dimensions. You're going to be able to rate yourself from 0 to 5. And part of the whole idea by going through this is, if I just say, you need to make your kitchen more resilient, that's not very actionable. But if I go through one aspect at a time and talk about it, and you rate yourself honestly, then it gives you, where am I strong and where can I improve? And then you can make some notes and go, okay, that's a weak spot in the way I am using my kitchen as part of a resilient overall food system. And so that gives you some action, and give you some maybe some goals going out, okay? So level 0 on each one of these is like no resilience at all. Level 5 is going to be very high resilience. And 1, 2, 3, 4 are in the middle. And I'm going to give you, on each one of these, there's going to be examples and so forth. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually go into the questions, and I'm going to go through the 12 with you. Remember, as we go, that I'm going to have to give you a warning that we're about to close the question, okay? So your question's going to come up. You're going to get to see it, read the options, and we'll talk through it with you for a minute, and we'll give you a warning when I'm going to close the question. So make certain you select your option and hit submit, and then when we go forward, your answer will be recorded so you can get your score at the end, okay, if you're playing along. So here we go. Let's go into the 12 dimensions of food resilience. And the first is non-toxic kitchen, right? Non-toxic kitchen. Because most of the time when I go in and start looking at kitchens they ask me to cook in, there's toxic gick everywhere, okay? Non-stick pans. How many of you have 0 non-stick pans in your house? Thank you, okay? How about aluminum? How many have 0 aluminum pans in your house? Thank you very much, okay? How about this? What is this? It's a wooden cutting board. Do you use wood or plastic for your cutting boards? Wood, okay? So what we're looking at here, here's another thing. What is this? It's my homemade cleaner. And it's vinegar-based with essential oils. If you put the normal cleaner on your food, what happens? You have a call to the poison center. You put this on your food, you just have a little weird flavor, but otherwise you're fine. Okay, so non-toxic kitchen. You'll see in here that the dimensions of your non-toxic kitchen. Oh, and by the way, we have this one too. Glass storage, right? Non-plastic storage. You'll see that I'm storing all of my stuff in glass, right? So you're going to see 3 dimensions that we work with. The degree to which all the surfaces you're using to prepare and cook your food are non-toxic. The degree to which the surfaces you use to store your food are non-toxic. And the third is the degree to which you use non-toxic cleaners in your house, okay? So you can look there if you're playing along on the quiz from 0 to 5, and go ahead and choose your option, hit submit. How many of you are feel like you're like a 5 here? Anybody? We got a couple. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. All right. So we're going to close down this question in about 20 seconds. And, I want to say, we have done the science on this. I've been part of the scientific team that's looked at this. It's amazing how much of the stuff from a cooking service gets into your food. Like we were looking at how much PFAS gets out of a nonstick into your food when you cook with it. You don't even want to know, I'll guarantee you, okay? So my kitchen is a no toxic zone. And so that's one area for a resilient kitchen, because you're not going to have long-term health if you got toxins going into your food and into your body. All right, I'm now going to go forward. So we got 3 people that are a 0, and we got 1 person who's a 5 out of everybody who answered the question. A lot of people are around a 2 or a 1. All right, so we're going to go on forward now into question 2, which is the resilience of your kitchen technology, okay? And this we break down into 3 main categories. The ability to cook when electric power or natural gas goes out. How well set up are you to do that? Number 2, the ability to keep the fridge or freezer running during an outage. And number 3, access to food processing tools that can work off grid. I won't tell you how many kitchens I've gone into where they don't have this. The power goes down and the bloody electric can opener will not work, right? And they don't have, how many of these do you think I have? I have 3, okay, because 3 is 2 and 2 is 1 and 1 is none, right? Okay, how about this? Yeah, okay, you think it, absolutely. And then how about this? Anybody know what this is? This is a thermal cooker. This is basically your crock pot, no plug. What you do, stainless steel, you get your dish up to boiling for a few minutes, and then you put it in this thing. It's basically a big thermos. You close it down, and it will now cook in its own heat for the next 4 hours. It's basically a crock pot with no plug, okay? It'll keep it warm for like 8 hours. So a lot of times when I'm going on the road, we've got lunch crock potting in the back seat of the car, okay? So how about this? What is this? Camp Dutch oven. How many of you have a Camp Dutch oven? Absolutely, right? Okay, you can bake just about anything that you can bake in an oven in here if you know what you're doing, okay? So I could go on about that for a long time, but think about this. How well can you keep yourself in cooking off grid? Now, by the way, if you're thinking, oh, I got propane, I'm good. Is that grid or non-grid? That's grid. It's what we call grid with a buffer, right? The electricity, if electricity goes down, you're out of business when? Now, if you don't have your own power back. If you've got natural gas, same thing. If the natural gas feed goes down, you're out now. If you have propane in the tank, you're connected to the grid, but you're connected to the grid with a buffer. Okay, so you got some resilience there, right? But if you are able to cook with your own wood, you can basically do that for as long as you can grow wood. All right, so go ahead and look at these options from 0 to 5. 0 is like, I have nothing. If the power goes down, I'm out of business, right? All the way up to 5. I'm fully off grid. I can do wood or biogas stoves. I got a year of fuel off on the side, multiple solar cooking options, high efficiency fridge or freezer running fully off grid. How many of you have that? Yeah, absolutely. And I actually have my freezer on its own separate battery. So even if the rest of my system goes down, it has 3 days of autonomy. So if everything goes down while I'm away, my freezer will keep on freezing for 3 days on its own separate battery system. Okay? All right, go ahead. Last 10 seconds. If you're playing along with us, make your choices. We're going to close that one down. So this is option number 2, the resilience of your kitchen technology. All right. Going once, going twice. All right, we are going to close it down. We have a lot of folks again at the 1 or 2 level. We got 1 person at a 5. Congratulations. 4 at a 3. So very good. And then this gives me a leaderboard up here. So at the end, I'll get to like tell you whose nicknames are scoring the highest, if you guys would like to know. All right, let's go on to the next one, number 3. Resilience of the kitchen work environment. All right, so it's like, okay, great, we got the tools, but what if our work environment, we can't work? So I'm going to break this down into 4 categories. Lighting of the workspace during a power outage. How many of you have ever found yourself trying to cook in the kitchen like this? Anybody? Okay, do you ever want to do that again? No, it's dangerous. Okay, at the very least, a headlamp, right? The very least, one of these, please. They're magical. How about this? What is this? It's an LED that plugs right into my 12-volt battery, and I can hang this with a little clip up wherever I want it, and so forth. So if everything else goes down, I can now cook in my kitchen. We can just move it right over where we eat. And it uses almost zero power, and boy, is this the thing. So that's your lighting. Do you have good lighting? Number 2, okay, the ability to have functional windows or doors so you can ventilate while if you're inside trying to work. Number 3, the ability to provide auxiliary cooling or heating to the work area. And then number 4 is the availability of an outdoor kitchen or outdoor cooking space that can be used when the indoor kitchen is too hot for cooking tasks. Okay, those are the 4 different aspects that of the environment itself.
Zoom has a protection in place, guys, where I can't hear the video because I'm transmitting it, so it mutes me on my side to stop that horrible echo you just heard. And that means that it actually makes it worse because I'm watching the video on my phone. And then I forget to turn it off, so my apologies for the loud noise. So we have a poll for y'all. Like, we've started the 12-point quiz. We're 3 questions in. Here's what I want to know tonight, and that is, how resilient is your kitchen? So far, how are you doing, just overall? And we're going from 0 to 5, just like Alan did. 3 questions in. Let me know how you think you're landing at this point. And we'll let that go for a bit. And I just wanted to remind you that we have workshops before Self Reliance Festival. And the workshops we have a wound closure class. So you're going to actually learn stapling and suturing. I'm pretty sure you can actually let yourself be stapled if you want to. And for some sick reason, people love to let that happen. Also, there is a Fight Hacker Escapology course, which is more of a hands-on self-defense course. Any fitness level can participate in this. We did Fight Like a Girl last time with Sunny Brazikas, and this time it's more of a general class. The Art and Science of De-Escalation is on a different day, which is all about the psychological part of de-escalating situations so that, you don't have to use what you learned the day before, but also how you may want to change the physicality of the situation. And then we have Self-Reliance Boot Camp on Friday, which is 6 or 8 instructors starting in the morning with fire, cooking with fire, using rock pots, processing a rabbit, cooking the rabbit, going all the way through the day, covering medical, herbal remedies, all sorts of really cool stuff. And we'll have a panel at the very end with anybody who happens to be ready to go in town. And I know Jack Spirko is going to be there for that one for sure. So those workshops ahead of time are something that a lot of people like to come do just as an add-on because they're in town anyway. That's also at selfreliancefestival.com/tickets. So this is the last reminder for my friends on YouTube and Facebook that we will be moving this webinar straight to the Zoom platform. So if you want to grab your spot on Zoom, make sure you have the link. Go to selfreliancefestival.com/webinar and sign up, and you'll get an automated email with the link to see the second half of Alan's presentation. So Kiri, you're muted, but what success stories is one of your favorites from Self Reliance Festival? Because that's something that we love to talk about.
Oh gosh, yeah. And there's just so many of them, which is I think one of the best things about Self Reliance Festival. Honestly, the one that comes to my head first is AJ with Simmerwell. I met AJ at the last SRF, and he was just launching Simmerwell, which he makes the most delicious bone broth and then freeze dries it for you. puts it in these great little packages, single serving packages that are really, really easy to use, and it's delicious. They're really kind of a perfect resource for homesteaders and people who are on the go that want to make sure that they're getting their nutrition. It's really super convenient. It doesn't hurt that AJ is really a absolutely fantastic human. We met at the last SRF, and I'm constantly impressed with what a brain he has for business. He is such a great numbers person. He's really thought out all of his process, and he's somebody that is just a joy to collaborate with, to bounce ideas off of. I know he was pretty active in the LFTN, SRF, and SOE communities, and really used his resources, which is one of my favorite sayings. He reached out to successful business people and thought leaders in our community and really talked to them about his ideas and what would make it a great, not just a great sell, but a great product that people would want to use. He really took advantage of those resources, and it's amazing to see what he has done with Simmerwell. AJ's really a doer, like the rest of us, and I think he's got an amazing story, and he's one of my favorite people in the Self Reliance Network, honestly. We're lucky in the Self Reliance community, specifically at SRF, that you have access as a new entrepreneur to people like Nicole, John and Amanda Willis, Evan Dixon from Radio Made Easy, Chuck Beeples from Homestead Medical, Sean Mills. All of these people you get to interact with, and they really want just success for everyone. So that's kind of my big success story, I think, that stands out to me for SRF. So do you want to look at that poll, Nicole? How are people rating themselves?
That's a good question. Let's give people 10 more seconds if you want to get your answer in. We've got about a 77% participation rate at this time.
Get your votes in, guys. Get your votes.
Nerd out a little bit. Okay. We're going to end the poll. And then we're going to share the results. So we're all over the board. So it's great that it's anonymous because we'll never know who it is, but one of you put yourself at a 0. So the good thing about being at a 0 is there's nowhere but up from here. Like you literally can buy a headlamp and you've just made an improvement in your kitchen, right? And that's not terrible. It's not the end of the world. We've got about 14% at a 1. Same thing. There's a lot of upside. 33% of you are at a 2. 24% at a 3, and 24% at a 4. I wonder if that's going to change, but we might have to repeat this poll at the end or something. So we're all over the board on this one. It's not all, and nobody's willing to claim a 5. If Sean Mills was on, he could probably claim a 5, I'm going to guess.
I think so too. Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, the only thing is they're not in food production mode right now because they just moved back to their homestead, but yeah. Cool. Okay.
So I was pretty happy to see. I feel like we're on our farm at about a 3.5. If I'm really looking at it, and I really do want to have a fully resilient kitchen, my life and business depend on it. I've got to get plastics under control. That and the nonstick. I foresee myself in the next couple of days planning for a yard sale.
Oh, good. Yeah, I went to full-on cast iron a long time ago because I realized what was coming off the pans. And so that really worked in my favor. And I had one nonstick pan here for a very long time for when Mom came to town because she really wanted it. And finally, I'm like, let me show you how to use this small little cast iron skillet for your, whatever it is that you're afraid of sticking. So, yeah.
So what do you think Alan's going to cook up or school us on next, Nicole?
Oh, no, it should be fun.
I'm looking forward to taking a lot more notes so that I can work on my resilient kitchen. I think everybody should get their pens and paper ready. Let's see.
Ready to go.
Ready to go.
Do it.